in most states, except governors who want to deny people who are poor Medicaid. Anyone who qualifies for Medicare would Medicaid would automatically be enrolled in the public option. The vast majority of the American people would still not be in that option. Number one.
Joe, what's good, everybody? We're doing a presidential debate watch party. This is a live viewing. We'll provide commentary throughout the debate on what they're talking about. So share your comments. Let us know. We are live doing a watch party.
All he knows how to do is Tuesday. You got very lucky. Here's the deal. I got very lucky. I'm going to get very lucky tonight as well. And tonight I'm going to make sure, because here's the deal. Here's the deal. The fact is that everything he's saying so far is simply a lie. I'm not here to call out his lies. Everybody knows he's a liar.
But you
I just want to make sure.
Joe, you're the liar.
I want to make sure.
Graduated last in your class, first in your class.
I want to make sure.
Mr. President, can you let him finish, sir?
He doesn't know how to do that. He has,
You'd be surprised.
You picked
be surprised.
the wrong guy, the wrong night at the wrong time.
Listen, you agreed with Bernie Sanders to the manifesto.
The whole idea.
Let him.
There is no manifesto.
Please
one.
let him speak, Mr.
Number two.
You just lost the left.
Number two.
You just lost the left. You agreed with Bernie Sanders on a plan.
Folks,
absolutely agreed
do you have any idea?
Trump will not let this man speak at all. Like, I don't know what's up. Like, shut up and let the man talk.
He is not for any help for people needing health care.
He's not.
Because
simple as that.
He, in fact, already has cost 10 million people their health care that they had from their employers because of his recession. Number one. Number two, there are 20 million people getting health care through Obamacare now that he wants to take it away. He won't ever look you in the eye and say that's what he wants to do. Take it away.
No, I want to give them better health care at a much lower price, because
by the way, he doesn't know how. He doesn't know how to do that.
Fixed it.
He has never offered a plan.
And Trump is talking about Obamacare is bad, but Trump has not provided any health care at all.
Let the president. Go ahead, sir.
Obamacare is no good. We made it better, and I had a choice to make very early on. We took away the individual mandate. We guarantee pre-existing conditions, but took away the individual mandate. Listen, this is the way it is. And that destroyed that. They shouldn't even call it Obamacare. Then I had a choice to make. Do I let my people run it really well or badly? If I run it badly, they'll probably blame him, but they'll blame me. But more importantly, I want to help people. Okay? I said, you got to run it so well. And I just had a meeting with them. They said, the problem is no matter how well you run Obamacare, it's a disaster. It's too expensive. Premiums are too high, and it doesn't work. So we do want to get rid of it. Chris, we want to get rid of it.
I understand it, sir, but I have to give you roughly equal time.
Good.
Please let the vice president talk.
Good.
He has no plan for health care.
That's right.
Please.
He has no plan.
Wishful thinking. He has executive orders that have no power. He hasn't lowered drug costs for anybody. He's been promising a health care plan since he got elected. He has none, like almost everything else he talks about. He does not have a plan. He doesn't have a plan. And the fact is, this man doesn't know what he's talking about.
All right. I have one final question for you,
sure,
Mr. Vice President. If Senate Republicans, we were talking originally about the Supreme Court here, if Senate Republicans go ahead and confirm Justice Barrett, there has been talk about ending the filibuster or even packing the court, adding to the 9 justices there. You call this a distraction by the president, but in fact, it wasn't brought up by the president. It was brought up by some of your Democratic colleagues in the Congress. So my question to you is, you have refused in the past to talk about it. Are you willing to tell the American people tonight whether or not you will support either ending the filibuster or packing the court?
Whatever position I take in that, that'll become the issue. The issue is the American people should speak. You should go out and vote. You're in voting now. Vote and let your senators know how strongly you feel. Vote now.
You're going to pack the
Make
court?
sure you, in fact, let people know you're senators. I'm not going to answer the question.
Why would you answer that
because
question?
the question is,
radical left.
Will you shut up, man?
Listen, who is on your list, Joe?
Who's
on your list?
Right. Gentlemen, I think
this is so unprecedented.
He's going to pack the court.
We have
not going to give a list.
We have ended this segment. We're going to move on to the second segment.
That was really a productive. Keep yapping, man.
The people understand, Joe.
They should do.
47 years. You've
This
done
is a
nothing.
shit show. That's what this is.
The second subject.
If this don't show you to get out and vote,
is
what
an awfully
will?
serious subject. So let's try to be serious about it. We have had more than 7 million cases of coronavirus in the United States, and more than 200,000 people have died. Even after we produce a vaccine, experts say that it could be months or even years before we come back to anything approaching normal. My question for both of you is, based on what you have said and done so far, and what you have said you would do starting in 2021, why should the American people trust you more than your opponent to deal with this public health crisis going forward? In this case, the question goes to you first, sir. 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Good luck.
200,000
200,000 dead.
He said, good luck.
7 million
That's right.
in the United
2
States.
minutes uninterrupted.
We, in fact, have 5%, 4% of the world's population, 20% of the deaths. 40,000 people a day contracting COVID.
In this
In
country,
addition to that,
so sad.
about between 750 and 1,000 people a day are dying. When he was presented with that number, he said, it is what it is. Well, it is what it is because you are who you are. That's why it is. The president has no plan. He hasn't laid out anything. He knew all the way back in February
Get him,
how
Joe.
serious this crisis was.
Tear his ass
He
up.
knew it was a deadly disease. What did he do? He's on tape as acknowledging he knew it. He said he didn't tell us or give people a warning of it because he didn't want to
Look at
panic the
it.
Americans.
Look at it.
You
Because
don't
look
panic.
crazy.
He panicked. In addition to that, what did he do? He went in and we were insisting that the people we had on the ground in China should be able to go to Wuhan and determine for themselves
Trump
how
thought
dangerous this was.
Biden would be
He did not
incoherent.
even ask
He don't know
Xi
what to
do
do.
that. He told us what a great job Xi was doing. He said we owe him a debt of gratitude for being so transparent with us. And what did he do then?
Trump been debating. Biden been debating for years.
He waited and waited and
Trump
waited.
just
He
came
still
to the
doesn't have
game
a
4
plan.
years ago.
I laid out
Sir,
back
it
in
is two
March
minutes.
exactly
So-
what we should be doing. And I laid out again in July what we should be doing. We should be providing all the protective gear possible. We should be providing the money the House has passed in order to be able to go out and get people the help they need to keep their businesses open schools. It costs a lot of money. You should get out of your bunker and get out of the sand trap and get in your golf course and go in the Oval Office and bring together the Democrats and Republicans and fund what needs to be done now to save lives.
So if
Wait,
we would have listened
Wait,
to
you have 2 minutes, sir.
if we would have listened to you, the country would have been left wide open. Millions of people would have died, not 200,000. And one person is too much. It's China's fault. It should have never happened. They stopped it from going in, but it was China's fault. And by the way, when you talk about numbers, you don't know how many people died in China. You don't know how many people died in Russia. You don't know how many people died in India. They don't exactly give you a straight count, just so you understand. But if you look at what we've done, I closed it and you said he's xenophobic. He's a racist and he's xenophobic because you didn't think I should have closed our country. Wait a minute.
It says 2 minutes.
You didn't think we should have closed our country because you thought it was terrible. You wouldn't have closed it for another 2 months. By my doing it early, in fact, Dr. Fauci said President Trump saved thousands
I had to
of lives.
grab the
Many
wine
of your
bottle, man,
Democrat
because this is
governors
going to be a
said,
long
President Trump
debate.
did a phenomenal job.
It's gonna be a
We worked with
long
the
debate.
governor. Oh, really? Go
I
take
got
a
to
look.
sit the bottle right next
The
to me.
governors said I did a phenomenal job. Most of them said that. In fact, people that would not be necessarily on my side said that. President Trump did a phenomenal job. We did. We got the gowns. We got the masks. We made the ventilators. You wouldn't have made ventilators. And now we're weeks away from a vaccine. We're doing therapeutics already. Fewer people are dying when they get sick. Far fewer people are dying. We've done a great job. The only thing I haven't done a good job, and that's because of the fake news. No matter what you say to them, they give you bad press on it. It's just fake news. They give you good press. They give me bad press because that's the way it is,
You
unfortunately.
got good press. I get bad
I don't
press.
care. I've gotten
Such
used to it.
elementary
You
words.
could never have done
Expand
the
your
job we did.
vocabulary.
You don't have it in your blood. You could have never done that job.
I know how to do the job. I know how to get the job
Well, you didn't do
done.
very well in swine flu. H1N1, you were a disaster. Your own chief of staff said you were a disaster.
14,000 people died, not 200,000. There was
A
no
very-
economic
Let- let-
recession.
sir, you made a point.
Far
There
less
was no
lethal
recession.
disease.
You made a point. Let him answer.
And there was no one, we didn't shut down the economy. This is his economy he's shut down. The reason it's shut down is because, look, you folks at home, how many of you got up this morning and had an empty chair at the kitchen table because someone died of COVID? How many of you were in a situation where you lost your mom or dad and you couldn't even speak to them? You had a nurse holding a phone up so you could, in fact, say goodbye.
You would have lost far
How
more
many
people. Far more people.
And
you would have been.
And by the way,
your own
his own CDC
listen,
director says
I'm hungry.
we could lose as many as
I was late going to get some
200,000
chicken.
people between now
We
and
said we're gonna have
year.
a party, so
And
this is a
nobody said,
party. This
if
is
we
a
just
debate watch
wear a
party. I'm
mask, we
hungry.
could save half those numbers. Just
And
just
I'm drinking
mask.
wine.
And by the way, in terms of the whole notion of a vaccine, we're for a vaccine, but I don't trust him at all. Nor do you. I know you do.
Hell no, we don't
the
trust him.
scientists.
Hell no.
We trust Dr.
Johnson
Fauci.
Johnson, Pfizer.
And
Okay,
by the way,
gentlemen, let me move on to questions about the
What is
future.
this?
You both have touched on two of the questions.
What
I'm
is
gonna
that?
ask. Focusing on the future first, President Trump,
Face ass.
you have repeatedly either contradicted or been at odds with some of your government's own top scientists. The week before last, the head of the Centers for Disease Control, Dr. Redfield, said it would be summer before the vaccine would become generally available to the public. You said that he was confused and mistaken. Those were your two words.
Yeah.
But
I'm weak.
Dr. Slawi, the head of your Operation Warp Speed, has said exactly the same thing.
Is he confused?
Well, I've spoken to the companies and we can have it a lot sooner. It's a very political thing because people like this would rather make it political than save lives. It is a very political thing. I've spoken to Pfizer. I've spoken to all of the people that you have to speak to. We have
He ain't
great
spoke to nobody.
Moderna,
That's what-
Johnson & Johnson, and others. They can go faster than that by a lot. Become very political because the left, or I don't know if I call
So
them
you're
left, I don't know
suggesting
what I
that the
call
head of your Operation Warp Speed, Dr.
I
Slawi,
disagree with them.
He said, I don't know what I call him.
He didn't say that. He said it could be there, but it could also be much sooner. I had him in my office 2 days ago.
He talked about the summer, sir, before it's generally available. Just like
He said
Dr.
it's a
Redfield.
possibility that we'll have the answer before November 1st. It could also
I'm
be
talking about
after
when it's
that.
generally available.
Well, we're going to deliver it right away. We have the military all set up logistically. They're all set up. We have our military that delivers soldiers, and they can do 200,000.
The military
a day.
delivers
They're
soldiers.
going to be
this is the same man.
It's
What?
all set up.
What?
By Easter, this would be gone away. By the warm weather, it'd be gone. Miraculous, like a miracle. And by the way,
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm gonna be locked up too. 'Cause I ain't getting no damn vaccine.
This is the
That
same
was
man.
said sarcastically.
That was
you
said-
know that. That was said
And
sarcastically.
so here's the deal. This man is talking about a vaccine. Every serious company is talking about maybe having a vaccine.
One glass
done
down
by the end of the year.
already.
The distribution of that vaccine will not occur until sometime beginning or the middle of next year to get it out, if we get the vaccine. And pray God we will. Pray God we will.
Mr. Vice President, I want to pick up
You'll have the vaccine
I
sooner
want to
than
pick
that.
up on this question, though. You say the public
Britt,
can
what
trust
up?
the
What's
scientists,
good?
but they can't trust President Trump. In fact, you said that again tonight. Your running mate, Senator Harris, goes further, saying the public health experts, quote,
White people don't have
He
top
doesn't.
lips. They just got
"Be
lips.
suppressed." Given the fact that
We got a
polls
white, a
already
top
show
and bottom lip. They
that
just got lips.
people are concerned about the vaccine and are reluctant to take it,
Look at
are
Chris Wallace's
you and your running
lips.
mate, Senator Harris, contributing to that fear?
No more than the question you just asked him. You pointed out. He puts pressure and disagrees with his own scientists.
But you're saying you
Everybody
can't, or
knows.
Senator
And-
Harris is saying
no.
you can't trust the science.
No. You can trust the scientists. She didn't say that. You
She
can't.
said-
She said the public health
Did say
experts,
that.
quote, will be
Look at
muzzled,
Trump. She
will be
did say
suppressed.
that.
Well, that's what he's going to try to do. But there's millions of scientists. There's thousands of scientists out there, like here at this great hospital, that don't work for
I
him.
ain't buying.
Their job doesn't
Don't
depend on
fuck up
him.
now.
That's not. They're the people. And by
I
the way,
spoke to the
and
scientists that are in charge.
By the way,
they will have the vaccine very soon.
do you believe for a moment what he's telling you in light of all the lies he's told you about the whole issue?
So said, she said.
He still hasn't even acknowledged that he knew this was happening, knew how dangerous it was going to be back in February, and he didn't even tell you. He's on record as saying it. He panicked or he just looked at the stock market. One of the two, because guess what? A lot of people died, and a lot more are going to die unless he gets a lot smarter, a lot quicker.
So-
Mr. President?
Did you use the word smart? So you said you went to Delaware State, but you forgot the name of your college. You didn't go to Delaware State. You graduated either the lowest or almost the lowest. And you
Where did you go to school, mother? Where did you go to school?
Use that word.
Oh, give me a break.
Because you know what?
Talk about
There's
your
something
school.
Smart about you, Joe.
Ask him about them
47
SAT
years.
scores. He cheated his
You
whole
would have
life.
had- Let me just tell you something, Joe.
No,
If you would have had the charge of what I was put through, I had to close
Trump
the
getting real
greatest
personal right
economy
now.
in the history of our country. And by the way, now it's being built again.
See,
And
We're
it's
going to
going
get
up
to the
fast.
economy in the next segment, sir.
okay.
It's going up fast.
Okay.
Looking forward to talking.
When it comes to how the virus has been handled so far, the two of you have taken very different approaches, and this is going to affect how the virus is handled going forward by whichever of you ends up becoming the next president. I want to quickly go through several of those. Reopenings. Vice President Biden, you have been much more reluctant than President Trump about reopening the economy and schools. Why, sir?
Because he doesn't have a plan. If I were running, I know what the plan is. You've got to provide these businesses the ability to have the money to be able to reopen with the PPE as
She
well
said,
as
what
with the
Texas?
sanitation they need. You have to
Tell
provide
that to
them
Nancy
plastic.
Pelosi.
Well, he's just shush for a minute. Nancy Schumer, by the way, Nancy Pelosi and Schumer, they have a plan. He won't even
Oh
meet with
boy,
them.
I need some water.
Republicans
This
won't meet
water,
with
okay,
the
this the
Senate.
water right here.
And he sits in his golf
I'm
course.
better-
I mean,
better
literally,
cut it
think
down.
about it.
You
better
probably
cut it
think
down.
more than I do, Joe.
What about this question of reopenings and the fact
Well, he wants to shut down this country,
Oh,
and I want to keep it open. And we
You
did
get-
a great
he
thing
just
by
admitted
shutting
he
it
shut
down.
it down.
Wait a minute, Joe.
Let him
Let me
finish.
shut you down for a second, Joe, just for 1 second.
You
We
said
wanna-
for 1 second.
He wants to shut down the country. We just went through it. We had to because we didn't know anything about the disease. Now we found
Trump is the
elderly
mafia,
people
whether y'all
with
believe it or
heart
not.
problems and diabetes.
He
and
a
different
real mob
problems are
boss.
Very, very vulnerable. We learned a lot. Young children aren't. Even younger people aren't. We've learned a lot. But he wants to shut it down. More people will be hurt by continuing. If you look at Pennsylvania, if you look at certain states that have been shut down, they have Democrat governors all. One of the reasons they're shut down is because they want to keep it shut down until after the election
All right,
on
I
November
want to
3rd.
move on to another
Because
subject.
it's a
I want to move
political
on to another
I gotta
subject.
respond.
But
I wanna
those
move-
states,
gentlemen,
those
wanna move
states
on to
are
another
not
subject.
doing well that are shut down
which is
right
gotta
now.
respond to that.
Wants to
President
shut
Trump,
down the
you
whole
have
country.
begun to increasingly question the effectiveness of masks as a disease preventer. And in fact, recently you have cited the issue of waiters touching their masks and touching plates. Are you
He said
questioning
waiters
the
out of
I
all
think the
people.
masks are
efficacy of
okay. You have to
masks?
understand, if you look, I mean, I have a mask right here. I put a mask on it, when I think I need it. Tonight, as an example, everybody's had a test and you've had social distancing and all of the things that you have to, but I
Just
wear
like your
masks
rallies.
when needed. When needed, I wear masks.
Okay, let me ask.
I don't wear masks like him. Every time you see him, he's got a mask. He could be speaking
What?
200 feet away from it.
What?
He shows up with the biggest
Like
mask
you
I've ever
supposed
seen.
to have a mask
I will
on, you
say-
dummy.
Vice President Biden.
This man said every time you see him, he has a mask on.
Business.
What are you supposed to do?
Wherewithal to be able to. We provided money.
But I was asking you, sir, about masks.
Well, masks make a big difference. His own head of the CDC said if we just wore masks between now, everybody wore masks in social distance between now and January, we'd probably save up to 100,000 lives. It matters.
And they've also
It
said the
matters.
opposite. They've
And
also said
no serious person said the opposite.
They've
no
also said, well, look
serious-
at Dr. Fauci.
Who is they?
Dr. Fauci
That's what
said
we
the opposite.
remember.
I
I always
said
talk
very
about
strongly.
all these day ass folk. They said this, they said that. Trump, he another day ass mother person. Talking about they.
Your
They
different
said
approaches
ain't nobody
has
said
affected
nothing.
The way that you have campaigned, President Trump, you're holding large rallies with crowds packed together, thousands of people outside. Yes, sir, agreed. Vice President Biden, you are holding much smaller events with
Because nobody will show up.
people with.
What's true? Nobody shows up to his rallies.
All right. In any case, why you?
He said because nobody show up to his events.
You go first.
Because people want to hear what I have to say. I mean,
But are you
I've
not
done a
worried
great
about it
job
spreading
as a
disease?
president, and I'll have 35,000 people show up at airports. We use airports.
Are you
for
not
hangars,
worried
and
about
we
the
have a
disease
lot of
issue,
people.
sir?
Well, so far, we have had no problem whatsoever. It's outside. That's a big difference, according to the experts. And we do them outside. We have tremendous crowds, as you see. I mean, every
Look at Biden's face. Like Biden just like, yo, they got me on stage with this fool here.
Has 3 people.
Like Hillary didn't win this.
One of the last big rallies he had, and a reporter came up to him to ask him a question. He said, no, stand back. All right, put on your mask. Put on a mask. Have you been tested? I'm way far away from those other people. That's what he said. I'm going to be okay. He's not worried about you. He's not worried about the people out there breathing in one another.
We've had no negative effect.
No negative effect.
We've had no negative effect. And we've had 35, 40,000
All right,
people at these rallies.
Just quickly finish up because I want to move on to our next.
Yes, I would. He's been totally irresponsible in the way in which he has handled the social distancing and people wearing masks, basically encouraging them not to.
All right.
Ben, he's a fool on this.
If you could get the crowds, you would have done the same thing. But you can't. Nobody can.
Gentlemen, can we move on to the economy?
What?
Gentlemen, can we move on to the economy?
Yes.
The economy is, I think it's fair to say, recovering faster than expected from the shutdown.
Much faster.
In the second quarter, the unemployment rate fell to 8.4% last month. The Federal Reserve says the hit to growth, which is going to be there, is not going to be nearly as big as they had expected. President Trump, you say we are in a V-shaped recovery. Vice President Biden, you say it's more of a K-shape. What difference does that mean to the American people in terms of the economy? President Trump, in this segment, you go first.
So we built the greatest economy in history. We closed it down because of the China plague. When the plague came in, we closed it down, which was very hard psychologically to do. He didn't think we should close it down, and he was wrong. And again, 2 million people would be dead now instead of still 204,000 people is too much. One person is too much. Should have never happened from China. But what happened is we closed it down and now we're reopening and we're doing record business. We had 10.4 million people in a 4-month period that we've put back into the workforce. That's a record the likes of which nobody's ever seen before. And he wants to close down he will shut it down again. He will destroy this country. You know, a lot of people between drugs and alcohol and depression, when you start shutting it down, you take a look at what's happening in some of your Democrat-run states where they have these tough shutdowns. And I'm telling you, it's because they don't want to open it. One of them came out last week. You saw that. Oh, we're going to open up on November 9th. Why November 9th? Because it's after the election. They think they're hurting us by keeping them closed. They're hurting people. People know what to do. They can social distance. They can wash
He thinks everything is all about him.
They can do whatever they want. But they got to open these states up. When you look at North Carolina, and these governors are under siege, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and a couple of others, you got to open these states up. It's not fair. You're talking about almost it's like being in prison. And you look at what's going on with divorce.
He equated
look at what's going on with
public
alcoholism
safety
and drugs.
to being
It's a
in
very,
prison.
very sad thing. And he'll close down the whole country. This guy
He'll
will
know what
close down
prison
the
is
whole
like,
country
and he'll be able to
destroy
tell
our
all of
country.
us
Our country is coming
when
back
he
incredibly
is no longer
well.
president and he goes to
Setting
prison.
records as it does it. We don't need somebody to come in and say, let's shut it down.
All right. Your 2 minutes, sir. We're now moved to you.
Second glass down,
the question.
third
the president
glass
says it's a
pour.
V-shaped recovery. You say it's a K-shaped recovery. What's the difference?
The difference is millionaires and billionaires like him in the middle of a COVID crisis have done very well. Billionaires have made another $300 billion because of his profligate tax proposal, and he only focused on the market. But you folks at home, you folks living in Scranton and Claymont and all the small towns and working class towns in America, how well are you doing? This guy paid a total of $750 in taxes.
Sir, wait, no, sir, it's
It's
just
the wrong statement.
I understand. You've agreed to the 2 minutes, so please let him have it.
Do I get my time back? The fact is that he has, in fact, worked on this in a way that he's going to be the first president of the United States to leave office having fewer jobs in his administration than when he became president. Fewer jobs than when he became president. First one in American history. Secondly, the people who have lost their jobs are those people who have been on the front lines, those people who have been saving our lives, those people who have been out there dying, people who've been putting themselves in the way to make sure that we could all try to make it. And the idea that he is insisting that we go forward and open when you have almost half the states in America with a significant increase in COVID deaths and COVID cases in the United States of America. And he wants to open it up more. Why does he want to open it up? Why doesn't he take care of the American? You can't fix the economy until you fix the COVID crisis. And he has no intention of doing anything about making it better for you all at home in terms of your health and your safety. Schools. Why aren't schools open? Because it costs a lot of money to open them safely. You know, they were going to give, his administration was going to give the teachers and school students masks. And then they decided, no, couldn't do that because it's not a national emergency. Not a national emergency. They've done nothing to help small businesses. Nothing. They're closing. 1 in 6 is now gone. He ought to get on the job and take care of the needs of the American people so we can open safely.
All right. Your time is up, sir. We are going to get to.
I have to respond to that.
Well, you both had 2 minutes, sir.
Excuse me. He made a statement.
So did you.
People want their schools. No, people want their schools open. They don't want to be shut down. They don't want their state shut down. They want their restaurants. I look at New York. It's so sad what's happening in New York. It's almost like a ghost town. And I'm not sure it can ever recover what they've done in New York. People want their places open. They want to get back to their lives.
People
They'll
want
be
to
careful,
safe.
but they want their schools open.
Okay.
People want
I'm
to
the
be
one that
safe.
brought back football. By the way, I brought back Big Ten football.
You didn't bring back no damn Big Ten football, man. Come on. Don't be sitting up here telling these
I'm
lies.
very proud of me. And you know
We're
how
going
I
to get
found
back.
out? When he took
Gentlemen, we're going to get to your
God
economic
damn, you didn't bring no
plans
Big
going
Ten
forward in a
football
moment.
back,
First,
man.
Mr. President, as you well know, there's a new report that in 2016, the year you were elected president, and 2017, your first year as president, that you paid $750 a year in federal income
Let's
tax
talk about them
each of those
taxes.
years. I know that you pay a lot of other taxes, but I'm asking you the specific question. Is it true that you paid $750 in federal income taxes each of those 2 years?
I paid millions of dollars in taxes, millions of dollars.
He asking about
And
federal
let me just tell you,
income taxes.
There was a story.
Federal income taxes.
I paid $38 million 1 year. I paid $27 million.
Show us your tax
1 year.
returns.
I went. You'll see it as soon as it's finished. You'll see it. You know,
As soon as what's
go to
finished.
the Board of Elections.
Even if they under
It's
audit, you
118
can release your
pages or
tax
so.
returns under
That says
audit.
everything I have, every bank I have, I'm totally under leveraged because the assets are extremely good, and we have a I built
Sir,
a
I'm
great
asking
company.
you a specific question, which
But
is.
let me tell you.
I understand all of that.
Release your
I
tax
understand all of
return.
that.
But let me-
No, Mr. President,
Go ahead.
I'm asking you a question. Will you tell us how much you paid in federal income taxes in 2016 and 2017?
Millions of dollars.
You paid millions of
In
dollars.
Millions
federal-
of dollars,
So
yes.
not 750.
Millions of dollars, and you'll get to see it.
I'm-
And you'll get to
When?
see it. But let
And
me just
Shala?
tell you, Chris, let me just tell you something, that it was the tax.
Why
laws.
you always
I
lying?
Before I came here,
Stop
private
fucking
developer,
lying.
like every other private person, unless they're stupid, they go through the laws, and that's what it is. He passed a tax bill that gave us all these privileges for depreciation and for tax credits. We built the building and we get tax credits, like the hotel on Pennsylvania Avenue. You get a
Okay.
massive, which, by the way, was given to me by the Obama administration, if you can believe that. Now, the man got fired
No,
right after that happened. But
Vice
that's
President Biden, you want to respond?
Yeah, I do want to respond. Look, the tax code that
Jump ball back football.
put him in a position that he pays less tax than
Hey,
a
listen,
school teacher.
This is the key. He don't understand the question that's been
money
asked
a
of him.
school teacher makes is because of him he says he's smart because he can take advantage of the tax code. And he does take advantage of the
Y'all
tax
look
code. That's
funny,
why
and this
I'm
wine
gonna
ain't
eliminate
helping.
the Trump tax cuts. And we're
Y'all
gonna-
look funny.
we're gonna eliminate those tax
Okay.
cuts and make sure that we invest in the people who, in fact, need the help. People out there need help.
But why didn't
I
you do it
said-
over the last 25 years?
Because you
Why
weren't
didn't
president.
you do it over
Because
the
you
last
weren't
25
president
years? No,
screwing
no,
things
no.
up.
You were a senator, and
You're
by
the
the way,
worst
you were a
president
vice.
America has ever had.
Hey,
Come
Joe,
on.
let me just tell you, Joe. I've done more in 47 months. I've done more than you've done in 47 years, Joe. We've done things that you never even thought of doing,
Okay,
including
gentlemen.
fixing the broken military that you gave me,
Let's-
including taking care
We're
of your
talking,
vets.
Mr. President, we're talking about the economy. I'd like to ask you about your plans going forward because, Mr. Vice President, your economic plan, if you were to be
Yes.
elected president, focuses a lot on big government, big taxes, big spending. I want to focus first on the taxes. You propose more than $4 trillion over a decade in new taxes on individuals making more than $400,000 a year and on corporations. President Trump says that kind of an increase in taxes is going to hurt the economy as it's just coming out of a recession.
Well, just take a look at what is the analysis done by Wall Street firms. Points out that my economic plan would create 7 million more jobs than his in 4 years, number one. And number two,
Look at Trump.
would create an additional $1 trillion in economic growth because it would be about buying American. We have to. We're going to make
man,
the
you
federal
see that?
government spend $600 billion a year on everything from ships to steel to buildings and the like. And under my proposal,
Man.
we're going to make sure that every penny of that has to be made by a company.
But
in
respectfully,
America.
sir, I'm talking about taxes, not spending.
By the way, I'm going to eliminate a significant number of the tax. I'm going to make the corporate tax 28%. It shouldn't be 21%. You have 91 companies, in the Fortune 500 who don't pay a single penny in tax, making billions of dollars.
Why didn't you do it
Billions
before
of
when
dollars.
you were vice president with Obama?
Because you, in fact, passed that. That was
Right.
your
I got
tax
it.
proposal.
I got it done. And you know what
Yeah,
happened?
you got it done.
Our economy boomed like it's never
and
boomed.
the economy
Well,
is
Mr.
busted.
President, let
He
me-
said
Mr.
boom.
Mr. President, let me pick
You
up
might
on
have a little
that.
black
You
in it.
would continue your free market approach, lower taxes.
Trump said
or
it done boom like it ain't never
deregulation,
boomed
correct?
before.
But in Obama's, you talk about the economy booming. It turns out that in Obama's final 3 years as president, more jobs were created.
Say it, Chris. Say it, Chris.
That in the first 3 years
Of your
presidency.
turn.
They had
Say
the
it.
slowest recovery.
No, they did
since
not.
Economic recovery. Since
Show us the numbers.
1929.
Show it to
It
us.
was the slowest recovery. Also, they took over something that was down here. All you had to do is turn on the lights and you pick up a lot. But they had the slowest economic recovery since 1929. Let me tell you about the stock market. When the stock market goes up, that means jobs. It also means 401ks. If you got in, if you ever became president with your ideas, you want to terminate my taxes, I'll tell you what, you'll lose half of the companies that have poured in here will leave, and plenty
Half
of companies that are already here, they'll leave for
Hardly
other
any companies
places.
have
They will
poured in
leave,
here.
and you will have a depression, the likes of which you've never seen.
Look,
Mr.
we
Vice President.
inherited the worst recession short of a depression in American history. I was asked to bring it back. We were able to have an economic recovery that created the jobs you're talking about. We handed him a booming economy. He blew it.
It wasn't
He blew
booming.
it. He
It
blew
wasn't booming.
It was
It was the weakest recovery
Well, sir, is it
since
fair to wait? Is it fair to say he blew it when, in
When
fact,
COVID came.
when there was record low unemployment
Yeah.
before COVID?
Yeah, but because what he did, even before COVID, manufacturing went in the hole. Manufacturing went in the hole.
Excuse
number
me,
one.
Chris. Wait,
Number two.
Chris.
Number three.
They said it would take. No, you were number two.
No.
Chris. They said it would
This
take
guy.
a miracle to bring back manufacturing. I brought back 700,000 jobs. They brought back nothing. They gave up on manufacturing.
We
Part
did
of
not
my
bring
standard
back-
fare.
I'm the guy that
He
brought
totally
back
gave
the
up on
automobile
manufacturing.
industry.
All right, let him back.
We brought back, I was asked to bring back Chrysler and General Motors. We brought them back right here in the state of Ohio and Michigan. He blew it. They're gone. He blew it. And in fact, they're going.
Ohio had the best year it's ever had last year. Michigan had the best year they've ever had.
That is not
Many
true.
car companies came in from Germany, from Japan.
This segment is brought to you by Swisher Sweet. Swisher Sweets.
And so,
Because I got to smoke right now because
He's done very little. His
He
trade
blew
deals
it.
are the same way.
I got to
He
smoke
talks
because
about these
he
great
blew it.
trade deals. You know, he talks about the art of the deal. China's perfected the art of the steal. We have a higher deficit with China now than we did before. We have the highest trade deficit
China
with
ate
Mexico.
your lunch.
All
Down
right, gentlemen,
18%.
and
China ate your lunch, Joe. And no wonder your son goes in and he takes out billions of dollars. Takes out billions of dollars to manage. He makes millions of dollars. And also,
Simply
while
not
we're at
true.
it, why is it, just out of curiosity, the mayor of Moscow
Third glass
gave
down.
his son $3.5 million.
Fourth glass
He didn't
poured.
deserve it.
That
What
is-
did he do with Burisma
None
to
of
deserve
that.
$183,000?
None of
You've asked
that
a
is
question,
true.
let him answer.
None of that is true.
Matter of fact-
But no, hey, Mr. President,
It's
Mr.
totally,
President, please.
totally
ask the question.
discredited. Totally discredited. And by the way,
Well, wait, he didn't get
No, no.
$3.5 million.
Matter of fact,
Joe?
Mr.
I'll be right
President,
back.
Mr.
Gotta
Gotta go
President,
get another bottle.
that is not true.
Oh, really?
Mr.
Oh,
President,
But Mr.
it's an open discussion, please.
No,
It's a fact.
Well,
There's, it
you
is
have
not.
raised an issue. Let the
It's been
Vice
totally
President answer.
discredited.
Did
There was a
Burisma pay him
report.
$183,000 a month with no experience in energy?
Mr.
Look,
President,
no job.
My son did nothing wrong at Burisma.
I think he
and
did.
Mr.
The only
President,
guy that
let him
did
answer.
He doesn't want to let me answer because he knows I have the truth. His position has been totally, thoroughly discredited.
By who?
And
The media.
By everybody. Well, by the
By the
media,
media,
by
because they
our
refuse to
allies, by
talk
the
about it
World
because they're
Bank,
embarrassed.
by everyone has discredited. Matter of
Dude,
fact, Matter of fact, even the
President,
people who
please stop.
testified under oath.
So let me ask you this, Joe.
Henry,
No, go ahead, Mister. I'm listening to you.
People under
You got $3.5
He
million from
testified-
Moscow.
he testified under oath in his administration. Said, "I did my job and I did it very well.
Oh,
I
really?
did it
I'd like to know
honorably."
who they are.
Well, I'll give you the list of people who testified.
No, go ahead.
I'm sure you've already fired most of them because they did a good job.
Some people don't
Well,
do a good job. With you,
Go
they
ahead.
say,
You get the, wait a minute. You get the final word.
Well, it's hard to get any word in with this clown. Excuse me. This.
Hey, let me just say, Joe.
No,
Did he call him a
Mr.
clown?
President,
$3.5
Mr.
million,
President,
Joe.
Did he just
That
call
is
him a
Why did I
clown?
deserve $3.5 million?
Oh my God! Did he call
Here's
Trump
the
a
deal.
clown?
We
Somebody
wanna
tell
talk
me what
about
Joe Biden
families
just called
and
Trump.
ethics. I don't want to do that. I mean, his family we could talk about all night. His family's
My
already.
family,
No, let him go.
my family
already
lost a fortune by
Go
coming down and helping
Go
us
ahead.
with
Go
government.
ahead, sir.
And that's such a.
they're right
That's
here.
it, Mr.
That's
President.
such
Every
a great.
single one of them lost.
This
a
is not
fortune.
Mr.
about
President,
my
Coming and
family or
helping
his
us with
family. It's
government.
about your family.
They didn't
The American
create
people.
Trump did call. I mean, Biden
That's not
called
true.
Trump
It
a
doesn't
clown.
want
Oh
to
my
talk
God!
about
Like,
what you need. You.
oh
American
my
people.
God!
It's about you. That's what we're talking about.
you should-
All right,
Not
that's the end
about
of
you.
that's the end of the
Shouldn't
segment.
take
We're moving on.
It didn't take that.
Well,
Vice
it's a-
President, no,
Can I be honest? It's a very important
Try to be
question.
honest.
No,
He
I
stood up,
no.
he stood up
The answer to
and
the
he
question is
threatened
no.
Ukraine
No, sir.
with $1 billion.
Sir,
If you
that
get rid of
is
the chips.
You know what? You're
absolutely not
Stop.
true.
Tape
You're-
doing it.
You're going to
Not
have,
true.
gentlemen. I hate to raise my voice.
He's
Oh my
a-
God! They made Chris Wallace raise his
So here's
fucking
the deal.
voice.
We
What?
6 segments. We have ended that segment.
Oh my
We're going to go to
God!
the next segment. In that segment, you
Yo!
have 2 uninterrupted moments. In those 2 uninterrupted minutes, Mr. President, you can say anything you want. I'm going to ask a question about race, but if you want to answer about something else, go ahead. But I think that the country would be better served if we allowed both people to speak with fewer interruptions. I'm appealing to you, sir, to do that.
Well, and him too.
Well, frankly, you've been doing more interrupting.
Well, that's
than
all
me
right, but he does plenty.
Sir, less than-
What is
no,
this?
less than
What are
you.
we watching? Oh my God! I
Please
feel like I'm
continue on.
watching
The issue of race. Vice
episode
President Biden, you
of
say
like
that President Trump's response
Punked or
to
something.
the violence in Charlottesville 3 years ago, when he talked about very fine people
It's
on
like
both
at work
sides,
they're like
was
Dad's
what
mad.
directly led you
They
to
said
want to
Dad's
run for
mad.
president. President Trump, you have often
White people
said
are
that
funny
you
as hell
believe
when they
you have
argue.
done more
They are
for Black
funny. They are so
Americans than
funny.
any president,
Oh my
possible
God!
exception of Abraham Lincoln. My question for the 2 of you is, why should voters trust you rather than your opponent to deal with the race
Oh,
issues
let's hear
facing
this.
this
Let's hear
country
this.
over the next 4
Oh my
years?
God! Let's
Vice
hear this.
President Biden, you go first.
It's about equity and equality. It's about decency. It's about the Constitution. And we have never walked away from trying to require equity for everyone, equality for the whole of America. But we've never accomplished it. But we've never walked away from it like he has done. It is true. The reason I got in the races with those people, close your eyes. Remember what those people looked like coming out of the fields carrying torches, their veins bulging, spewing anti-Semitic bile, and accompanied by the Ku Klux Klan. A young woman got killed. And they asked the president what he thought. He said there were very fine people on both sides.
We remember that, Trump.
Presidents ever said anything like that.
Finish this.
It is who's
Now,
2
second-
minutes, sir.
Second point I'd make to you is that when Floyd was killed, when Mr. Floyd was killed, there was a peaceful protest in front of the White House. What did he do? He came out of his bunker, had the military use tear gas on him so he could walk across to a church and hold up a Bible. And then what happened after that? The bishop of that very church said that it was a disgrace. The general who was with him said all he ever wants to do is divide people, not unite people at all. This is a president who has used everything as a dog whistle to try to generate racist hatred, racist division. This is a man who, in fact, you talk about helping African Americans. 1 in 1,000 African Americans has been killed because of the coronavirus. And if he doesn't do something quickly, by the end of the year, 1 in 500 will have been killed.
Damn,
1
1
in
in
500
1,000. That's a lot of.
African-Americans.
That's a lot of black people.
This man is the savior of African Americans. This man cares at all. This man's done virtually nothing. Look, the fact is that you have to look at what he talks about. You have to look at what he did. And what he did has been disastrous for the African American community.
So,
President Trump, you have 2 minutes. Why should Americans trust you over your opponent to deal with
We
racism?
did a crime bill, 1994, where you call.
Okay. Now Trump coming with some real facts right now.
And they've never forgotten.
Let's listen to this.
Never forgotten it, Joe.
No, sir. It's his 2 minutes.
So you
Well,
did
yes,
that,
Joe,
and they
it's his
called
2
you
minutes
super
now.
predator. And I'm letting people out of jail now that you have treated the African American population community, you have treated the black community about as bad as anybody in this country. You did the 1990, and that's why.
Oh,
if you
all
look at
right.
the
Now
polls,
Trump
you're
is hitting him
better than
right
any
here. This is the
Republican
only
in a
thing
long
Trump can
time
hit him on.
because they
This
saw
is
what you
it.
did. You call them super predators, and you've called them worse than that. Because you look back at your testimony over the years, you've called them a lot worse than that. As far as the church is concerned,
Hillary
and
Clinton
as far
said
as the
super
generals are
predators, not
concerned,
Joe Biden.
we just got the support of 250 military leaders and generals, total support. Law enforcement, almost every law enforcement group in the United States. I have Florida, I have Texas, I have Ohio, I have Portland. The sheriff just came out today and he said, I support President Trump. I don't think you have any.
The sheriff
law
of
enforcement.
Portland?
You can't even
Portland
say
is
the
a
word
state,
law enforcement,
Trump,
because
not
if
a
you say those
fucking
words,
county.
you're going to lose all of your
Sheriffs are
radical
over
left
counties,
supporters.
not states.
And why aren't you
The
saying
sheriff
those
of
words,
Portland.
Joe? Why don't you say the words law enforcement? Because you know what? If they called us in Portland, we would put out that fire in a half an hour, but they won't do it because they're run by radical left Democrats. If you look at Chicago, if you look at any place you want to look, Seattle, they heard we were coming in the following day and they put up their hands and we got back Seattle. Minneapolis, we got it back, Joe, because we believe in law and order, but you don't. The top 10 cities and just about the top 40 cities are run by Democrats and in many cases radical left. And they've got you wrapped around their finger, Joe, to a point where you don't want to say anything about law and order. And I'll tell you what, the people of this country want and demand law and order, and you're afraid to even say it.
All right. I want to return to the question of race. Vice President Biden, after the grand jury in the Breonna Taylor case decided not to charge any of the police with homicide, you said it raises the question, quote, whether justice could be equally applied in America. Do you believe that there is a separate but unequal system of justice for blacks in this country?
Yes, there is. There's systemic injustice in this country, in education and work and in law enforcement and the way in which it's enforced. But look, the vast majority of police officers are good, decent, honorable men and women. They risk their lives every day to take care of us. But there are some bad apples. And when they occur, when they find them, they have to be sorted out. They have to be held accountable. They have to be held accountable. And what I'm going to do as President of the United States is call together an entire group of people at the White House, well, everything from the civil rights groups to the police officers, the police chiefs, and we're going to work this out. We're going to work this out so we change the way in which we have more transparency in when these things happen. These cops aren't happy to see what happened to George Floyd. These cops aren't
Some
happy
of
to
them
see
are,
what
Joe.
happened to
Some of them are now, Joe.
Most don't like it, but we have to have a
Okay,
system
most don't
where
like it.
people are held
Thank you,
accountable.
Joe. Say that.
And by the way, violence in response is never appropriate. Never appropriate. Peaceful protest is. Violence is never appropriate.
All right.
What is peaceful protest? When they run through the middle of the town
President Trump,
and burn down your
President Trump,
stores and kill people all
President
over
Trump,
the place,
that
and you
is
say
not
peaceful
peaceful
protest?
President Trump,
No, it's
I'm not
not, but
asking-
you say it is.
President
did not
Trump,
say
I'd like to continue with the
Yes,
issue
go
of
ahead,
race. I
please.
promise we're going to get to the issue of law and order in a moment. This month, your administration directed federal agencies to end racial sensitivity training that addresses white privilege or critical race theory. Why did you decide to do that, to end racial sensitivity training? And do you believe that there is systemic racism in this country, sir?
I ended it because it's racist. I ended it because a lot
What?
of people were complaining that they were asked to do things that were absolutely insane, that it was a radical revolution that was taking place in our military, in our schools, all over the place. And you know it, and so does everybody
what
else.
is radical,
and he would know.
What is
Oh, it was
radical
totally
about
racist.
racial sensitivity training, sir?
If you were a certain person, you had no status in life. It was sort of a reversal. And if you look at the people, we were paying people hundreds of thousands of dollars to teach very bad ideas and frankly, very sick ideas. And really, they were teaching people to hate our country. And I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to allow that to happen. We have to go back to the core values of this country. They were teaching people that our country is a horrible place, it's a racist place, and they were teaching people to hate our country. And I'm not going to allow that to happen.
Vice President Biden?
Nobody's doing that. He's the racist.
You just don't.
Here's the deal. I know a lot more about
You
this.
don't.
Let him finish.
The fact is that there is racial insensitivity. People have to be made aware of what other people feel like, what insults them, what is demeaning to them. It's important to people know they don't want to. Many people don't want to hurt other people's feelings, but it makes a big difference. It makes a gigantic difference in the way a child is able to grow up and have a sense of self-esteem. It's a little bit like how this guy and his friends look down on so many people. They look down their nose on people like Irish Catholics like me and grew up in Scranton. They look down on people who don't have money. They look down on people who are of a different faith. They look down on people who are a different color. In fact, we're all Americans. The only way we're going to bring this country together is bring everybody together. There's nothing we cannot do if we do it together. We can take this on and we can defeat racism in America.
President Trump, sir.
During the Obama-Biden administration, there was tremendous division. There was hatred. You look at Ferguson, you go to very many places. Look at Oakland. Look what happened in Oakland. Look what happened in Baltimore. Look what happened. Frankly, it was more violent than what I'm even seeing now. But the reason is that the Democrats that run these cities don't want to talk like you about law and order.
Violent
and
crime,
still haven't mentioned. Are you in favor of law and order?
I'm in favor of law. You follow.
Are you in favor of law and order?
Yes, I'm in favor.
You asked a question. Let him finish.
Law and order. Law and order with justice, where people get treated fairly. And the fact of the matter is, violent crime went down 17%, 15% in our administration.
All right.
It's gone up on his watch.
Went down much more.
He had.
Ours.
All right, we're now.
Mr. President,
You're going to. Mr. President,
every record in the book.
Mr. President, you're going to be very happy because we're now going to talk about law and order.
Places we had trouble were Democratic-run cities.
That's exactly my question. There has been a dramatic increase in homicides in America this summer, particularly, and you often blame that on Democratic mayors and Democratic governors, but in fact, there have been equivalent spikes in Republican-led cities like Tulsa and Fort Worth. So the question is this really a party issue?
I think it's a party issue. You can bring in a couple of examples, but if you look at Chicago, what's going on in Chicago, where 53 people were shot and 8 died shot. If you look at New York, where it's going up like nobody's ever seen anything, the numbers are going up 100, 150, 200%. Crime. It is crazy what's going on. And he doesn't want to say law and order because he can't, because he'll lose his radical left supporters. And once he does that, it's over with. But if he ever got to run this country and they ran it the way he would want to run it, our suburbs would be gone. By the way, our suburbs would be gone. And you would see problems like you've never seen.
He would know a suburb unless he took a wrong turn.
Oh, I know suburbs.
He would not.
Go ahead. Wait a minute.
I was raised in the suburbs. This is not 1950. All these dog whistles and racism don't work anymore. Suburbs are by and large integrated. There's many people today driving their kids to soccer practice and or to black and white and Hispanic in the same car as there have been any time in the past. What really is a threat to the suburbs and their safety is his failure to deal with COVID. They're dying in the suburbs. His failure to deal with the environment. They're being flooded. They're being burned out because his refusal to do anything. That's why the suburbs are in trouble.
I do want to talk about this issue of law and order, though. And in the joint recommendation that came from the Biden-Bernie Sanders task force, you talked about, quote, reimagining policing. First of all, what does reimagining policing mean, and do you support?
It means.
Let me, if I might finish the question. What does reimagining policing mean, and do you support the Black Lives Matter call for community control of policing?
Look, what I support is the police
Here we
having the
go.
opportunity to deal with the problems they face. And I'm totally opposed to defunding the police officers. As a matter of fact, local police, the only one defunding it, his budget calls for a $400 million cut in local law enforcement assistance. They need more assistance. They need, when they show up for a 9/11 call, to have someone with them as a psychologist or psychiatrist to keep them from having to use force and be able to talk people down. We have to have community policing like we had before, where the officers get to know the people in the communities. That's when crime went down. It didn't go up, it went down. And so we have to be engaged.
That's not what they're talking about, Chris. That's not what they're talking. He's talking about defunding the police.
That is not true.
He doesn't have any law
support.
Look, he has no law enforcement
That's not
support.
true.
Almost
That's
nothing.
not. Look,
Oh, really? Who do you have? Name one group that supports you. Name one group that came out and supported you. Go
Look,
ahead.
look.
Think. We have time.
we don't have time to do
No,
anything.
think
All right.
about it.
All right,
Name one law enforcement group that came out and
I think,
supported
gentlemen,
you.
I think I'm going to take back the
There
moderator's
aren't. I don't
role,
think there
and
are any.
I want to get to another subject, which is the issue of protests in many cities that have turned violent. In Portland, Oregon, especially, we had more than 100 straight days of protests, which I think you would agree. You talk about peaceful protests. Many of those turned into riots. Mr. Vice President, you say that people who commit crimes should be held accountable. The question I have, though, is as the Democratic nominee, and earlier tonight you said that you are the Democratic Party right now, have you ever called the Democratic mayor of Portland or the Democratic governor of Oregon and said, hey, you got to stop this, bring in the National Guard, do whatever it takes, but you'd stop the days and months of violence in Portland?
I don't hold public office now. I am a former vice president. I've made it clear. I've made it clear in my public statements that the violence should be prosecuted. It should be prosecuted. And anyone who commits it
But
should
you've
be
never called
prosecuted.
for the people,
He's never
the leader, excuse me, sir. You never called for the
Chris
leaders
been over both of them.
in Oregon.
He said,
to
"Excuse me,
call
sir."
Bring in the National Guard
He's fed
and
up
knock
with
off
everybody.
100 days of riots.
They can, in fact, take care of it if he just stay out of the way. Look, here,
Oh, really?
here-
Oh, really?
here's the
But
thing.
I sent
sir,
in the
wait, I
U.S.
asked him a
Marshals to
question.
get the killer of the young man in the middle of the street, and they shot him. And for 3
Mr.
days,
President Trump,
Portland
President
wouldn't do
Trump,
anything.
he's
I had to send in
interrupted.
the U.S. Marshals, and
President
they
Trump.
took care of business.
Go ahead, sir.
And by the way, his own former spokesperson said, riots and chaos and violence help his cause. That's what this is all
I
about.
don't know who said that.
I do.
Who?
I think Kellyanne Conway.
I don't think she said
She said that.
that.
And so here's
All right.
here's the point.
Go
The
ahead.
point is that that's what he
So
is
I don't think
trying
she
to
said
rile
that.
everything up. He doesn't want to calm things down. Instead of going in and talking to people and saying, let's get everybody together, figure out how to deal with this. What's he do? He just pours gasoline in the fire constantly and every single solitary
Okay,
time.
and to end this, button up this segment, I'm going to give you a minute to answer, sir. You have repeatedly
Well, wait, I
criticized.
have to answer his
No,
statement.
you have
Your statement.
repeatedly.
Wait,
you have
just one
repeated. No,
second.
you've been talking.
You
back
made
and
a
forth.
statement.
I'm asking you.
I would love to end it.
sir.
I would love to end it. and
You know,
we
if
would
you want to
very-
switch seats,
we would very quickly.
we can do that. But
I'd
I'm
send
no,
in the National Guard, it would be over. There'd be no problem.
okay.
But they don't want to accept the National Guard.
You have repeatedly criticized the vice president for not specifically calling out Antifa and other left-wing
That's right.
extremist groups. But are you willing tonight to condemn white supremacists and militia groups and to say that they need to stand down and not
What you
add
gonna do,
to the
Trump?
violence in a number
What
of
you
these
gonna do,
cities, as we
Trump?
saw in Kenosha and as we've seen in Portland?
Sure,
Are you
I'm willing
prepared
to do that.
specifically
But
do it.
Well, go ahead,
I would say almost everything I see is from the left wing. Not
Oh
from
my!
the right
Oh,
wing.
so Trump is not
what do you
willing
say?
to actually
I'm
do
willing
it.
to do anything. I want to see
Well,
peace.
then do it, sir.
Say it. Do it. Say it.
You want to call him? What do you want to call him? Give me a name. Give me a
White
name. Go ahead.
supremacists and
Who would
white
you like me to condemn?
White
Proud Boys.
supremacists and right
Proud
militia.
Boys. Stand back and stand by. But I'll tell you what.
He said,
I'll tell you
"Stand
what,
back and stand
somebody's
by."
gotta do something
What?
about Antifa and the left, because this is
What?
not a
He
race
would
war.
not.
This
Trump
is
would
a
not
right
denounce
war.
white
This is a
supremacy.
White supremacist. Antifa's an idea, not an organization.
You got it.
Not
kid.
militia. That's what
Okay.
his
It's an idea.
FBI director
Gentlemen,
said.
Well,
We're
then
gonna-
you know what?
No,
He's
no,
wrong.
we're done, sir. We're moving on to the next.
Everybody
We're moving.
wants
If that
advice
hits
in
you
your
over the head, that's
administration.
not an idea.
Everybody in
Antifa
your
is bad.
administration tells you the truth is a bad idea.
I tell you what.
You have no ideas.
Antifa Antifa is a dangerous,
All right,
radical
gentlemen, we're
group,
now moving on to the Trump
and
and
you ought to be
Biden
careful with
records.
them. They'll overthrow you.
When
in
a
2
president,
seconds.
I'm going to ask a question. When the president seeks a second term, it is generally a referendum on his record. But Vice President Biden, you like to quote one of your dad's sayings.
Trump
which is, "Don't
told
compare
them to
me
stand
the
back
Almighty,
and stand
compare
by.
me
You heard
to the
that?
alternative." And in
What
this
is that?
case, sir,
That's a
you are
call.
the
He
alternative.
said, stand down for
Looking
now,
At
but
both of
stand
your
back
records,
for when I
I'm gonna
need
ask
you.
each of you, why should voters elect you president over your opponent in this segment? President Trump, you go first, 2 minutes.
Because there has never been an administration or president who has done more than I've done in a period of 3.5 years. And that's despite
And what have
the
you
impeachment
done?
hoax.
What have you
And you saw
done?
what happened today with Hillary
What have you
Clinton, where it was
done?
a whole big con job. But despite going through all of these things where I had to fight both flanks and behind me and above, there has never been an administration that's done what I've done. The greatest, before COVID came in, the greatest economy in history, lowest unemployment numbers. Everything was good. Everything was going. And by the way, there was unity going to happen. People were calling me for the first time in years. They were calling and they were saying, it's time maybe. And then what happened? We got hit, but now we're building it back up again. A rebuilding of the military, including Space Force and all of the other things. A fixing of the VA, which was a mess under him. 308,000 people died because they didn't have proper health care. It was a mess. And we now got a 91% approval rating at the VA, our vets. We take care of our vets. But we've rebuilt our military. The job that we've done, and I'll tell you something, some people say maybe the most important. By the end of the first term, I'll have approximately 300 federal judges and Court of Appeals judges, 300, and hopefully 3 great Supreme Court judges, justices. That is a record, the likes of which very few people, and you know one of the reasons I'll have so many judges, because President Obama and him left me 128 judges to fill. When you leave office, you don't leave any judges. That's like, you just don't do that. They left 128 openings, and if I were a member of his party, because they have a little different philosophy, I'd say if you left us 128 openings, you can't be a good president. You can't be a good vice president. But I want to thank you because it gives us it'll probably be above that number by the end of this term. 300 judges. It's a record.
Looking at both your records, why should voters elect you president as opposed to President Trump? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Under this president, we become weaker,
And it's crazy that he has to let Joe Biden know that he has 2 minutes uninterrupted.
more violent.
And that's letting
When
Trump
I
know,
was-
God damn, don't say nothing, man, for these 2 minutes.
I was asked to fix it. I did. We left him a booming economy, and he caused a recession. With regard to being weaker, the fact is that I've gone head to head with Putin and made it clear to him we're not going to take any of his stuff. He's Putin's puppy. He still refuses to even say anything to Putin about the bounty on
Look,
the heads
he's
of
been
American
interrupted.
soldiers.
Your son got
No,
$3.5 million.
That's right. And by the way,
Mr.
my
President,
son,
wait a minute. Mr. President, your campaign agreed to both sides would get 2-minute answers uninterrupted. Well, your side agreed to it, and why don't you observe what your campaign agreed to as a ground rule, okay, sir?
he never keeps his word. Can you
Because-
add
No,
back
no,
He's
I'm
a
not asking.
person that's
That was a
not-
rhetorical question.
Can you
Go
add
ahead,
back
sir.
30 seconds?
Yeah, yes,
Okay.
you may have.
All right.
Go ahead.
So, thirdly, we're poor. The billionaires have gotten much more wealthy by a tune of over $300 to $400 billion more just since COVID. You in the home, you got less. You're in more trouble than you were before. In terms of being more violent, when we were in office, there were 15% less violence in America than there is today. He's president of the United States. It's on his watch. And with regard to more divided, the nation can't stay divided. We can't be this way. And speaking of my son, the way you talk about the military, the way you talk about them being losers and being and just being suckers. My son was in Iraq. He spent a year there. He got the Bronze Star. He got the Conspicuous Service Medal. He was not a loser. He was a patriot. And the people left behind there were heroes.
Really?
And I resent.
Are you talking
like
about
hell.
Hunter? Are you talking
I'm
about Hunter?
talking about my son, Bo Biden. You're talking
I don't know.
about.
I don't know, Bo. I know Hunter.
Yeah, you
Hunter
know
got
Bo.
thrown. Hunter got thrown out of the military. He was thrown out, dishonorably discharged.
That's not true. It
for
wasn't
cocaine use, and he didn't have a job until you became vice president. Once you
None of
became
that
vice
is
president,
true.
he made a fortune in Ukraine.
You gonna,
China,
you gonna sit up and
in
talk
Los
about my
Angeles,
children like
areas.
Joe? You're not gonna let him talk
My
about your
son
children
was-
like this.
My son.
And he
Now,
didn't
Joe,
have a
he done
job.
said your son on
Like a lot of
cocaine. Now, come
like a
on,
lot of
Joe.
people we know at home had a drug problem. He's overtaken it. He's fixed it. He's worked on it, and I'm proud of him.
But why was he
proud of
given
my
tens
son.
of millions
All right,
of
But he
dollars?
wasn't given
All right,
tens of
but-
millions of dollars.
but-
That is totally,
President Trump- President
Damn,
Trump-
Trump
you've
to hit
already- you've
personal.
already been-
totally
God
discredited.
damn, Trump ain't playing no games now. I'm telling you, shit, nah, Trump ain't playing no games.
So do I.
Subjects. Well, you know, as the moderator said,
It is, but I mean,
When
what do we expect
Let's
from?
talk about
Is this, do we
Moscow.
expect
Let's
anything
talk about
less?
That's true.
All right.
That report is totally
Why did he get
discredited.
I
Mitt
think,
Romney on that committee said it wasn't worth taxpayers' money. That report was written for political reasons.
you know, I'd like to talk about climate change.
So would I.
Okay. The
Because
forest
I don't know
fires in
Bo
the West
Biden.
are
Bo
raging
died,
now.
Trump,
They
and you
have
didn't know
burned
one of Joe
millions of
Biden's sons
They
died from
have
cancer.
displaced hundreds of thousands of people. When state officials there blame the fires on climate change, Mr. President, you said, I don't think the science knows. Over your 4 years, you have pulled the U.S. out of the Paris Climate Accord. You have rolled back a number of Obama environmental records. What do you believe about the science of climate change, and what will you do in the next 4 years to confront it?
I want crystal clean water and air. I want beautiful clean air. We have now the lowest carbon. If you look at our numbers right now, we are doing phenomenally. But I haven't destroyed our businesses. Our businesses aren't put out of commission. If you look at the Paris Accord, it was a disaster from our standpoint. And people are actually very happy about what's going on because our businesses are doing well. As far as the fires are concerned, you need forest management in addition to everything else. The forest
What?
floors are loaded
No,
up with
why do you
trees,
so?
dead
Why is
trees
Trump
that are
throwing the
years old,
responsibility
and they're
off on someone
injured.
else? The federal
And
government can
leaves
step
and
in.
everything
What
else.
can the
You've
federal
got the
government
secret is
do?
The whole forest burns down.
Talk
You've
about
gotta have
that.
Forest management.
What do you
You've gotta have
believe?
guts.
What do you believe about the science of climate change, sir?
I believe that
Fourth
we
glass
have to do
down.
everything we can to have
Fifth
immaculate
glass
air,
poured.
immaculate water, and do
Second
whatever else
bottle.
we can that's good. You know, we're planting 1 billion trees, the Billion Tree Project, and it's very
Do you
exciting.
believe
for a lot
that,
of people.
that human pollution, greenhouse gas emissions contributes to the global warming of
I
this
think
planet?
a lot of things do, but I think to an extent, yes. I think to an extent, yes. But I also think we have to do better management of our forests. Every year, I get the call, California's burning. California's burning. If that was cleaned, if you had forest management, good forest management, you wouldn't be getting those calls. You know, in Europe, they have forest cities. They're called forest cities. They maintain their forests. They manage their forests. I was with the head of a major country. It's a forest city. He said, sir, we have trees that are far more, they ignite much easier than California. There shouldn't be that problem. I spoke with the governor about it. I'm getting along very well with the governor. But I said, you know, at some point, you can't every year have hundreds of thousands of acres of land just burned to the ground.
But, sir,
That's burning down because of a lack of
but
management.
sir, if you believe in the science of climate change, why have you rolled back the Obama Clean Power Plan, which limited
so what we
carbon
do know
emissions in power plants? Why
is
have
that
you relaxed?
Because it was driving
most of the
energy
people that's
prices
tweeting-
through the sky.
Why have you relaxed fuel economy
So
standards
sometimes what we do
that
know
are going to create
is
more
Trump ain't the
pollution
one that's
from
sending
cars
these
and
tweets
trucks?
most of the
because
time.
what's happening, the car is less expensive, safer car, and you're talking about a tiny difference. And then what would happen, because of the cost of the car, you would have at least double and triple the number of cars purchased. We have the old slugs out there that are 10, 12 years old. If you did that, the car would be safer. It would be much cheaper, by
But in the case of
$3,500.
California, simply
But you
you're-
take a
you're
lot of
wrong.
cars off the market because people will be able to afford a car. Now, so, and by the way, we're going to see how that turns out. But a lot of people agree with me, many people. The car has gotten so expensive because they have computers all over the place for an extra little bit
Okay.
of gasoline. And
not-
and I'm okay with electric cars too. I think I'm all for electric cars. I've given big incentives for electric cars. But what they've done in California is just
All right.
crazy.
Vice President Biden, I'd like you to respond to the president's climate change record, but I also want to ask you about a concern. You proposed $2 trillion in green jobs. You talked about new limits, not abolishing, but new limits on fracking, ending the use of fossil fuels to generate electricity by 2035, and zero net emission of greenhouse gases by 2050. The president says a lot of these things would tank the economy and cost millions of jobs.
He's absolutely wrong, number one. Number two, if in fact, during our administration, the Recovery Act, I was in charge, able to bring down the cost of renewable energy cheaper than or as cheap as coal and gas and oil. Nobody's going to build another coal-fired plant in America. No one's going to build another oil-fired plant in America. They're going to move to renewable energy, number one. Number two, we're going to make sure that we are able to take the federal fleet and turn it into a fleet that's run on their electric vehicles. Making sure that we can do that, we're going to put 500,000 charging stations and all of the highways that we're going to be building in the future. We're going to build an economy that, in fact, is going to provide for the ability of us to take 4 million buildings and make sure that they, in fact, are weatherized in a way that, in fact, they'll emit significantly less gas and oil because the heat will not be going out. There's so many things that we can do now to create thousands and thousands of jobs. We can get to net zero in terms of energy production by 2035. Not only not costing people jobs, creating millions of good paying jobs, not $15 an hour, but prevailing wage, by having a new infrastructure that in fact is green. And the first thing I will do, I will rejoin the Paris Accord. I will join the Paris Accord because with us out of it, look what's happening. It's all falling apart. And talk about someone who has no relationship with foreign policy. Brazil, the rainforests of Brazil are being torn down, are being ripped down. More carbon is absorbed in that rainforest than every bit of carbon that's emitted in the United States. Instead of doing something about that, I would be gathering up and making sure we had the countries of the world coming up with $20 billion, say, here's $20 billion. Stop tearing down the forest. And if you don't, then you're going to have significant economic consequences.
What about the argument that President Trump basically said?
Yeah, see how Trump changed? Like, he turned like
environmental interests and economic
like,
interests.
I'm like, what?
And he's drawn his
Like,
line.
that was a little creepy there.
He still, for example, make sure that he wants to make sure that methane's not a problem. You can now
Look at how he looking. And when Chris says something, look at how Trump
This is a
turned.
guy who says that you don't have to have mileage standards.
Like, his neck look like gobble, gobble, gobble.
This is the guy who says that. Well, the fact that it's all true.
Look
You're
at
talking
it.
about the Green New Deal, and it's not $2 billion or $20 billion, as you said. It's $100 trillion.
And them small ass hands. He loved throwing them small ass hands
rebuild
around.
the building.
No,
it's the
that is
dumbest,
not-
most
Jeez, them hands so
ridiculous,
small,
where airplanes
man,
are
like-
out of business,
I said,
where two-car
He needs
systems
some
are out,
handbags
where they want
or
to take
something.
out the cows too. That's
true.
not true either, right?
not
This
true.
is a 100
Simply,
trillion.
look,
That's more money than our
that is-
country could make in
that is
100
simply
years if we're going
not
to.
the case.
All right, let me
destroy our
because I
country.
actually wait a minute, sir. I actually have
Look
studied
at how he looking at
and it
Chris.
includes upgrading 4 million buildings, weatherizing 2 million homes,
Trump fed up at this
and
point.
1.5 million energy efficient.
Trump is
homes.
fed up at this point. He
So
ready.
the
He's
question
like,
is,
get like these
The president is saying, I think
6
some
minutes need
people
to hurry up.
who support the president would say that sounds like it's going to cost a lot of money and hurt the economy.
What it's going to do is going to create thousands and millions of jobs, good paying jobs.
But let him finish, sir.
Trump fed up at this point.
The fact is, it's going to create millions of good paying jobs, and these tax incentives for people to weatherize, which he wants to get rid of. It's going to make the economy much safer. Look how much we're paying now to deal with the hurricanes. By the way, he has an answer for hurricanes. He said maybe we should drop a nuclear weapon on them. They may.
I never said that.
That's what he did say.
made
You
it up.
did say that.
And
Come
here's the
on,
deal.
You make up-
Orange man.
We
You
are going
did
to be
say
in a
it.
position where we
Jesus,
can create
tell the truth for
hard-
once.
hard, good
This is
jobs
so hard.
by making sure the environment.
You lie
is
so
clean,
much, you don't even
and
know
we
what
all
to say it.
appreciate
You don't even know the lie you tell it.
Billions of dollars now, billions of dollars on floods, hurricanes, rising seas. We're in real trouble. Look what's happened just in the Midwest with these storms that come through and wipe out entire sections and counties in Iowa. They didn't happen before. They're because of global warming. We make up 15% of the world's problem. We, in fact, but the rest of the world, we got to get them to come along. That's why we have to get back into the Paris Accord.
All right, gentlemen.
Wait a minute, Chris. So why didn't he do it for 47 years? You were vice president. Why didn't you get the world? China sends up real dirt into the air. Russia does. India does. They all do. We're supposed to be good. And by the way, he made a couple of statements. The Green New Deal is $100 trillion.
That is not my plan.
That's
the Green
New
you want to rebuild
every building.
Not my plan.
You want to rebuild every
If he knew anything about,
he made a statement about the military. He said I said something about the military. He and his friends made it up, and then they went with it. I never said it.
Okay.
That is
what
not
he
true.
did is he said
in this segment.
He called
Mr.
the military stupid bastards.
I
He
did
said
not
it on
say
tape.
that.
He said
Mr.
stupid
please.
bastards.
Trump is so fed up.
I would never
He's
say
like,
that.
I gotta get it out. I gotta get it out.
Mr. Vice President,
He's so fed up.
answered his final question.
The final question is, I can't remember which of all his rantings.
I'm having a little trouble myself, but and about the economy and about
Chris said he having a little trouble himself.
The economy.
We all are,
deal
Chris.
and the
It's
idea
not
of what-
just
what
you and
your
Mike.
environmental changes will do.
The Green New Deal will pay for itself as we move forward. We're not going to build plants that, in fact, are great polluting plants.
So do you
We're going to
support
build.
the Green New Deal?
Pardon me?
You support that?
No, I don't support the Green
Oh,
New
you
Deal.
don't? Oh, well, that's a big statement.
Oh, that is a big statement. That is a very big statement. That is Trump. Like, yeah, that's a very big statement, Joe Biden.
Okay.
The Biden plan, which is different than what he calls the radical Green New Deal.
All right, gentlemen.
No.
Final
But
segment.
we cannot deny
Election
the Green
integrity
New
as we
Deal.
meet
Okay.
Tonight, millions of Americans are receiving mail-in ballots or going to vote early. How confident should we be that this will be a fair election? And what are you prepared to do?
Oh shit, this better
over
be
the
good.
next 5+ weeks?
I feel like I'm
because
watching
not
The
only
Apprentice
before
right
election
now.
day, but also counting some
And I've
ballots,
never seen The
mail-in
Apprentice.
ballots after election day. What are you prepared to do to reassure the American people that the next president will be the legitimate winner of this election? In this final segment, Mr. Vice President, you go first.
Prepared to let people vote. They should go to iwillvote.com. Decide how they're going to vote, when they're going to vote, and what means by which they're going to vote. His own Homeland Security.
On Twitter, yeah.
As well as
He gonna come for the
FBI
moderator
says there
on
was
Twitter.
No evidence at all that mail-in ballots are a source.
As soon as it's over with, his Twitter actually already going off. Look,
The fact is that there are going to
let's
be millions
say
of people because
Twitter
of COVID.
notifications right
They're
there.
gonna be
3.
voting by mail-in
Trump
ballots
campaign, they
like
have
he does, by
tweeted.
the way. He sits behind the Resolute desk and sends his ballot to Florida. Number one. Number two, we're going to make sure that those people who want to vote in person are able to vote because enough poll watchers are there to make sure they can socially distance. The polls are open on time, and they'll stay open until the votes are counted. And this is all about trying to dissuade people from voting because he's trying to scare people into thinking that it's not going to be legitimate. Show up and vote. You will determine the outcome of this election. Vote, vote, vote. If you're able to vote early in your state, vote early. If you're able to vote in person, vote in person. Vote whatever way is the best way for you.
Yep.
Because you will,
Yes.
he cannot stop you from being able to determine
Yes.
the outcome of this election.
Yes.
And in terms of whether or not when
Yes.
the votes are counted and they're all counted, that will be accepted. If I win, that will be accepted. If I lose, that'll be accepted. But by the way, if in fact he says he's not sure what he's going to accept, well, let me tell you something. It doesn't matter because if we get the votes, it's going to be all over. He's going to go. He can't stay in power. It won't happen. It won't happen. So vote. Just make sure you understand you have it in your control to determine what this country is going to look like the next 4 years. Is it going to change? We get 4 more years of these lies.
Yep.
Mr. President, 2 minutes.
So when I listened to Joe talking about a transition, there's been no transition from when I won. I won that election. And if you look at crooked Hillary Clinton, if you look at all of the different people, there was no transition because they came after me trying to do a coup. They came after me spying on my campaign. They started from the day.
He said they were trying to do a coup.
The day I came down the
Well,
escalator with our first
if your
lady,
ass don't leave
they
office, there's gonna
were
be a coup.
disaster. They were
a coup.
disgrace to our country.
So you
And
either
we've
gonna
caught
leave
them. We've
or you
caught them
not.
all.
But bitch,
We've
it's
got
gonna
it
be
all
a
on
coup.
tape. We've caught
Whether
them
you
all.
believe
By the
it
way,
was one or it's gonna be one for real,
General
bitch
Flynn.
is about to
Better
be
take
a
look at
coup.
that because we
Get
all knew
ready.
in a sense. And President Obama was sitting in the office. He knew about it too. So don't tell me about a free transition. As far as the ballots are concerned, it's a disaster. A solicited ballot Okay, solicited is okay. You're soliciting, you're asking, they send it back, you send it back. I did that. If you have an unsolicited, they're sending millions of ballots all over the country. There's fraud. They found them in creeks. They found some with the name Trump, just happened to have the name Trump just the other day in a waste paper basket. They're being sent all over the place. They sent 2 in a Democrat area. They sent out 1,000 ballots. Everybody got 2 ballots. This is going to be a fraud like you've never seen. The other thing, it's nice.
So if you win, is it gonna be a fraud, bitch? If you win,
I think we're going to do well.
let me. I should have been
People are really
drinking.
happy
If
with the
you
job we've
win,
done.
is it
You know
gonna be a
what?
fraud?
We
Tell
might
us that.
not know for
Tell us
months.
that. Is it gonna be a
Ballots
fraud
are
if you
all over.
win?
Take a look
Because
at
if
what
you
happened
lose,
in
oh, it's gonna be a
what
fraud.
happened in
But if
New
you
Jersey,
win,
what
is it
happened
gonna
in
be a
Virginia and
fraud?
other places. They're not losing 2%, 1%, which, by the way, is too much. An election could be won or lost for that. They're losing 30 and 40%. It's a fraud, and it's a shame. And can you imagine where they say you have to have your ballot in by November 10th? November 10th. That means that's 7 days after the election. In
His
theory,
arms are so
should have
short.
been announced.
Okay.
Joe
We have
said
major
Trump
states
2020.
that
Sir,
all run
Joe
by
voted
2
for
minutes
Trump.
is 2 minutes.
all run
You're-
by
you're-
He said
Democrats.
2
It's
minutes is
such
2
a
minutes.
You're going to be able to continue. You've been charging for months that mail-in balloting is going to be a disaster. You say it's rigged, that it's going to lead to fraud.
Y'all hearing
But
this,
in
man?
2018, the last midterm election, 30
Are y'all hearing this, man?
voted
Like, for
mail-in
real.
voting. That was a quarter, more than a quarter of all the voters that year cast their ballots by mail. Now that millions of mail-in ballots have gone out, what are you going to do about it? And are you counting
Right.
on the Supreme
What's he
Court,
gonna do about it?
including a Justice Barrett, to settle any dispute?
Yeah,
Chris said, "What you gonna do about it?"
The ballots, definitely. I don't think. I hope we don't need them in terms of.
If
the
I was,
election
they
itself.
wouldn't want me as
But for
they
the
said.
ballots, I
They
think so.
saying that I should have
Because
been the
what's
moderator
happening is
tonight.
incredible. I
No,
just
'cause
heard. I
ain't
read
nobody
today where
saying
at least 1%
I'm telling
of the
everybody to
ballots
shut
for
the fuck up. I'm
2016
saying, hey, we're gonna
were
stop this whole debate.
invalidated.
If you don't shut
they
the
take them. We
fuck
don't
up,
like them. We don't
and
like
you
them.
don't
We throw
shut
them
the
out
fuck
There
up.
are millions of
You want
ballots
this
going out
debate
right
to
now.
go
There you
on,
go.
Joe?
Well,
You gonna
you
let
do
him
a
talk?
solicited
And look,
ballot.
Trump, you got to
That's
shut
okay.
up. We're
No,
gonna
you
cut
go
your
vote.
mic
I'm
off,
asking you
or we're
about
gonna
the
ask you
fact
to
that
leave,
millions of
and
people
we're gonna
You
let
go
Joe
and
do
vote.
his thing. What you
go
want to do?
and vote.
But
Like
what I'm
they,
saying is,
like
That's
they
what it
used to
would have
do.
looked like.
millions of
And
people.
I've
Either
been to
do,
the
Chris,
debate,
a
the
solicited
moderator.
ballot where you're sending it in, they're sending it back, and you're sending. They have mailmen with lots of it. Did you see what's going on? Take a look at West Virginia. Mailmen selling the ballots. They're being sold.
Oh,
They're
he
being
tweeted.
dumped
Trump
in
tweeted a
rivers.
video.
This is a
I watched the
horrible thing
video
for our
he
country.
retweeted
This
about
is
somebody
not-
selling the
no-
ballot.
This is not
There's
going
no
to end
validity
well.
to it.
Okay.
This is
No,
not going
Vice
to
President
end well.
Biden.
5 states
So,
have had
They
mail-in
be coming up
ballots
with stuff.
for the last decade or more. 5, including 2 Republican states. And you don't have to solicit the ballot. It's sent to you. It's sent to your home. What we're saying is, they're saying is that it has to be a postmark by the time, by election day. If it
We
doesn't get
almost
in
on
until the
glass
7th,
6.
8th, 9th, it still should be counted. He's just afraid of counting the votes.
You're
because of the
wrong.
outcome.
You're wrong.
I want to continue with you on
I
this,
love
Vice
counting the
President Biden. because
Chris, he's so wrong when he makes a
in fact,
statement
no,
like that.
excuse me, Vice President Biden, the biggest problem, in fact, over the years with mail-in voting has not been fraud historically. It has been that sizable numbers, sometimes hundreds of thousands of ballots are thrown out because they have not been properly filled out or there is some other irregularity or they
Mhm.
missed the deadline. So the question I have is, are you
Totally
concerned
fraud.
that the Supreme Court with a Justice Barrett will settle any dispute?
I'm concerned that any court would settle this because here's the deal. When you file,
Okay,
you get
I'm
a ballot,
concerned any court
and you
will
fill it
handle
out,
this too. I'm with
you're
Joe on
supposed to
that.
have an affidavit. If you didn't know,
Well, we have a.
something
Why should a
say,
court decide
this
the
is
election? We should have a
you should
court
be
decide
able
the
to,
election.
in
Now,
fact,
come
you
on,
can
be
verify
honest.
that you,
If the people
before the
vote,
ballot is thrown out,
we should
that's
have a court
sufficient
decide no
to
election.
count the ballot because someone made a mistake and not dotting the correct I. Who they voted for, testify, say who they voted for, say it's you. That is totally legitimate.
All right.
Excuse me,
No,
Chris,
no, no.
when you
I
have
have a final-
80 million ballots,
Gentlemen, I have a final
sending it and
question.
swamping the system, you know it can't be done. You know it can't. And already
All
there's
right,
been
so now-
fraud,
Mail
deception.
service
Wait
delivers
a minute, gentlemen.
185
Final
million
question
pieces
is,
a day.
in 8
See,
states,
this would be going on if I was the
in
moderator.
8 states, election workers
This would be
are
going on if
prohibited
I was the moderator.
currently by law, 8 states, from even beginning to process ballots, even take them out of the envelopes and
Yes.
flatten them until election day. That means that it's likely, because there's going to be a huge increase in mail-in balloting, that we are not going to know on election night who the winner is. That
Yes,
could be
we will
days,
not know on
it could
election
be
night.
weeks,
Could be months.
until we find out who the new president is. So
This is a very good question.
first for you, sir, finally for the vice president, I hope neither of you will interrupt the other. Will you urge your supporters to stay calm during this extended period, not to engage in any civil unrest? And will you pledge tonight that you will not declare victory until the election has been independently certified? President Trump, you
I'm
go first.
urging my supporters to go into the polls and watch very carefully, because that's what has to happen. I am urging them to do it. As you know, today there was a big problem. In Philadelphia, they went in to watch. They're called poll watchers, a very safe, very nice thing. They were thrown out. They weren't allowed to watch. You know why? Because bad things happen in Philadelphia, bad things. And I am urging my people. I hope it's going to be a fair election. If it's a fair
You're urging
election,
them what?
I am 100% on board. But if I see tens of thousands of ballots being manipulated, I can't go along with that. And I'll tell you what,
does that mean?
from a common sense,
Does that mean you're
I'll tell
going to
you
tell
what
your
it means.
people to take to the
It means you
street?
have a fraudulent election. You're
And what
sending
are you
out
gonna do?
80
And
million
what would you
ballots.
do
They're
about that?
not equipped to. These people aren't equipped to handle it. Number one. Number two,
Okay.
they cheat.
How you gonna just
They
downgrade the American
8,000
people like that
ballots in a
and say
waste
these
paper
people
basket
aren't equipped to handle it?
years ago,
What?
and they all had the name
All right.
military.
These are the
ballots.
American
Military.
people, Donald
They all
Trump.
had the name Trump on them.
Vice President
think
Biden,
that's good?
Vice President Biden, final question for you. Will you urge your supporters to stay calm while the vote is counted? And will you pledge not to declare victory until the election is independently certified?
Yes. Here's the deal. They count the ballots, as you pointed out. Some of these ballots in some states can't even be opened until election day. And if there's thousands of ballots, it's going to take time to do it. And by the way, our military, they've been voting by ballots since at the end of the Civil War, in effect.
Yep.
And that's what's going to happen. Why was it not? Why is it for them somehow not fraudulent? It's the same process. It's honest. No one has established at all that there is fraud related to mail-in ballots. That somehow it's a fraudulent process.
It's already been established.
Take
Take a look at Carolyn Maloney's race.
I
and
asked
now-
you had an opportunity
Look
to
at Carolyn
respond.
Monroe.
Go ahead.
They have no idea what
Vice
happened.
President Biden, go ahead.
He has no idea what he's talking about. Here's the deal. The fact is, I will accept it, and he will too. You know why? Because once the winner is declared, after all the ballots are counted, all the votes are counted,
5 glasses
Yeah.
down,
that'll be the end of it.
6 glass sport.
In fact, fine. If it's not me, I'll support the outcome, and I'll be a president not just for the Democrats. I'll be a president for Democrats and
It took me 6 glasses of
I
wine
want to see honest
Okay.
ballot count.
Gentlemen,
to get through this
you say
debate.
that's the end of it? This is the
I
end
wanna
of this
see an
debate?
This is the end of it.
We're going to
Be
leave
quiet,
it there.
Trump.
To be continued as in more debates as we go on. President Trump, Vice President Biden, it's been an interesting hour and a half. I want to thank you both for participating
Cut him off,
in the
Chris.
first of 3 debates that you have agreed to engage in. We want to thank Case Western Reserve University and the Cleveland Clinic for hosting this event. The next debate, sponsored by the Commission on Presidential Debates, will be 1 week from tomorrow, October 7th, at the University of Utah in Salt Lake City. The 2 vice presidential nominees, Vice President Mike Pence and Senator Kamala Harris, will debate at 9 p.m. Eastern that night. We hope you watch. Until then, thank you and good night.
All right, so man, oh man, wow. Wow. All right, my bad. So look, wow. That was something. So let's talk about it really quick, guys. We'll take about 5 minutes or so to talk about it. What did you guys think of the presidential debate tonight? For everybody that was watching, let's take a minute to talk about it really quick. I'm blinking a few times, so I'm okay. She said blink twice if you're okay. I'm okay. All right, so I'm blinking twice. Blink a couple of times. All right, so look, What do you guys think about this debate tonight? How was this debate? This was the debates of debates that everybody has been wanting to watch. This was much different than Trump and Hillary Clinton 4 years ago. This was very much different than that. Yeah, my screen went out because I closed the wrong thing. I didn't have, listen, it took me 6 glasses of wine to get through this debate. I've been drinking Roscato. This is what we drink. We got 5 bottles that's open that we've been drinking over there that's empty. This is number 6 bottle. But yeah. What y'all think about this debate? Okay. They was getting on my nerve too. If I was the moderator, it would have looked a whole lot different. All right. We wouldn't have been saying it wouldn't have been none of that had I been the moderator of tonight's debate. So what you guys think? We're on Facebook Live. We're on YouTube Live. Yeah. My screen went out for a minute. But they didn't want me to be the debate. Because listen, if I was on the debate as the moderator, ain't none of that. See, Chris, see, there's certain stuff that folk that don't look like us, there's certain stuff they allow. There's certain stuff that we allow, and there's certain stuff that we don't allow. Y'all all grew up. All right, black folk grew up with parents who have told us, who have had multiple children, or you didn't have grandparents. And your grandparents have told you one thing. Your grandparents have always said, we can all sing together, but we can't all talk together. And that's all it took for us. But see, they let each other, they'd be at dinner tables, and at dinner, they all yelling at each other, and it's just a big mess at dinner. We don't eat dinner with each other, so we don't even deal with that at dinner, because we don't even sit down for dinner no more and eat. So we don't even deal with that. But anyway, we don't do all that. Our grandparents told us we can all sing together, but we can't all talk together. And that's all I'm going to say. I'm going to say, listen, I don't know how y'all was right. If I was the moderator, it'll be as simple as this. All I would say as the moderator, I'm going to say, look, before we start anything, I'm going to tell you this. I said, I don't know how y'all was raised, but my grandmother raised us like this. My grandmother told us this one thing. She said, we can all sing together, but we can't all talk together. So Donald and Joe, unless we singing, ain't no reason you should be talking when he talking. Ain't no reason you should be talking when he talking. And if there is a case where that does happen, I'm going to pack my stuff and I'm going to go. Because my grandmother always told me we can all sing together, but we can't all talk together. And that would have killed everything. That would have killed everything. They wouldn't have been, when none of that would have been going on, because guess what? They wouldn't have happened. They wouldn't want me to get my ass up and leave the debate. Okay? So you just not a guy, you got to know how to take control. These folk, Chris don't know how to take. Chris be on TV every day. It's his show. He got control of it. He can do what he wants to. You know, he can say what he's very soft. Chris had to yell tonight. Chris Wallace had to yell tonight a couple of times. And he had to say, sorry, gentlemen. I'm sorry for having to yell. All right? He wasn't sorry because he meant what he said, and he meant what he did it when he did it. He meant to yell when he yelled. Okay? So, look. Stacey said, personally, we have no choice but to choose Joe Biden. I can only imagine the jeopardy the U.S. would be in if Trump is reelected by 2020. Let me tell you something. I said, woo, that damn debate gave me a headache. Hey, ask me too. It gave me a headache too. Let me tell you all something. Going back to what Stacey said, all right? Listen, I was like, I'm not voting for no Joe Biden. Ain't no way in hell I'm voting for Joe Biden. Joe Biden ain't coherent. This man can't speak for real. This man can't talk for real. I ain't voting for no Joe Biden. But listen, when Ruth Bader Ginsburg died, all that changed. Because when she died, I said, oh shit, I gotta vote for Joe Biden now, because now Trump, we cannot let Trump have 3 seats on the Supreme Court, given the conservatives a super majority on the Supreme Court for the next 40, 50 years. I can't let that happen. I gotta vote for Joe Biden right now. At this point, I ain't got no choice but to vote for Joe Biden. And that's what it's gonna be. I'm voting for Joe Biden. Not because I want to, but because I have to. Okay, you can play around all you want to with this election, but I ain't sitting around and playing around. Okay, because I don't want 40 more years of Donald Trump. I simply don't. So you can, and we ain't got number 2 choice. We can sit up here and play these games and sit around all day and be like, oh yeah, I ain't voting for nobody. That's on you. That's your fault. And that's why Donald Trump won. Because some of us said that we ain't voting for nobody. Hillary Clinton had 3 million more votes than Donald Trump. But guess what Trump won? He won the Electoral College, because Electoral College is based upon the state, the size of the state, the number of people, and the number of Electoral College the state has. Alabama only has 9 Electoral College votes, okay, in the whole state. Because Alabama only has 9 million people. The larger the state, the more Electoral College votes. California has 55 Electoral College votes, because that's how big the state is. Okay? So it's not a thing if you wanting to. You ain't got no choice but to vote for Joe Biden. All of us ain't got no choice. We're gonna let Trump win again, and then he's gonna have another choice on the Supreme Court? Oh my God, Roe v. Wade, health insurance. Right now, it's a lot of y'all that don't know that you still able to be on your parents' insurance until the age of 26. A lot of y'all don't even know that because of Obamacare. Whether you like Obamacare or not, you're able to stay on your parents' insurance until the age of 26 because of Obamacare. Trump get another pick on the Supreme Court. All that's going away. That what you want to happen? Get it together, folks. I'm voting for Joe Biden because I have to. I hope you vote for Joe Biden, not because you want to necessarily. I really hope that you won't, if that's who you want to vote for, you vote for him. But you got a choice. We either got Donald Trump or we got Joe Biden. It's simple as that. Ain't no in between. All these third-party candidates, it sound nice, but realistically, they ain't got no chance in hell. Okay? So I was a fool 4 years ago. I gave my vote away to a third-party candidate. Okay? And we got Donald Trump. Not my fault, but because of the Electoral College need to be abolished. But until then, we got to take responsibility. When you go out to vote, we need to vote for Joe Biden, not because we want to, but because we have to. I'm going to try to have Joe Biden on my morning show in the next few weeks. Okay? He's been doing a lot of stuff with Cardi B. We're going to try to get him on our morning show in a few weeks. We got the Carlos Chaverst Jr. morning show every single morning from 6 to 8 Central Time on Facebook Live, okay? Well, we got all the information. Tomorrow, the topic of the day is going to be the Donald Trump, the presidential debate, okay? That's going to be our topic of the day. And listen, this is a magic number. I want somebody to listen to this. Number 6, okay? I'm going to ask during the show, how many glasses of wine did I have during a presidential debate? And the answer is 6. If you say 6, around 7:30 Central Time tomorrow, when I ask the question, you will win dinner, breakfast, lunch for the day. We'll buy you. I will personally buy you lunch for the day tomorrow. If you're on the show, watching the show, and I ask how many glasses of wine did I have, the first person to inbox the Carlos Chaverst Jr. show page I'll buy you lunch tomorrow. It took me 6 glasses of wine to get through the debate. But anyway, it's the truth. Your 27th birthday, you will be dropped no matter if you're married or not. Insurance for real. That's on your Obamacare. Okay, that's on the Obamacare. Okay, only Obamacare. That's only Obamacare. Now, look, folks, we got to get this thing together. You all saw the debate. I wanted all of us to see this debate tonight. You saw the debate. I'm about to end this video so that those that you did not see the debate could go back and watch the debate. Okay? But that's what we have. See you all bright and early in the morning. I'm about to go to sleep in probably about 2 hours or so I can be up in the morning to do the Carlos Chaverst Jr. Morning Show right here live on Facebook and live on YouTube so that we can talk about what we saw tonight. All right? Everybody, look, we cannot play around with this election. We got to get this together, okay? We cannot afford 4 more years of failed leadership with Donald Trump. We have an obligation to do the right thing. All right, we have the obligation to do the right thing. All of us have to do the right thing. That's it, okay? So I love everybody. I hope y'all have a good night, okay? Get some good rest. Don't let this control your mind. And also, listen, let me tell you this. If you can vote early, please vote early. The biggest part of all of this, if you can vote from home and you can do so safely and you can do so early, vote from home early. Request an absentee ballot now. Okay, the vote is coming up in a month or so. Get your absentee ballot. A lot of people don't know. Let me tell you how this. You can go tomorrow, anytime during the day, during normal business hours, to the county courthouse and vote. Please go and vote. You don't even have to wait until election day to vote. You can go to the county courthouse on tomorrow, on Friday, and you can vote. And on Thursday too. Please do that. Please go. Please go early. Okay? Don't wait till the last minute. We don't need that to happen. Okay? Also, the census is about to end. Fill out your census. Okay? Please fill out the census. Don't wait till the last minute to fill out the census, and don't wait till the last minute to vote. You can go vote. We're in a global pandemic. You don't want to go get COVID at the polls on election day. So get your absentee ballots in and go vote early. Go to the courthouse right now. Go to the court, not now, but go tomorrow. Okay, Wednesday. Go Thursday. Okay, go Friday, and go vote. It's our responsibility. That's all I ask. All right. So listen, it has been great. This has been it's been a phenomenal night, man. We got a chance to watch the presidential debate. So I want everybody to have a good night and tune in tomorrow morning. First thing in the morning, we're live 6 to 8 Central Time. I'm up at 4 o'clock. I'll be up 4 o'clock. It's 8:54 in Denver in my time right now. I have to be up at 4 o'clock in the morning to do the Carlos Chaverst Jr. Show at 5 o'clock my time. At 6 o'clock your time in Birmingham. But it's also 7 o'clock Eastern time, 7 to 9 Eastern time. All right. So I hope she said I did, and they be at my door every week asking me to fill out the census. I'm like, all right, yes. Okay, and long live Tony, always. We're not gonna say F all that, but long live Tony. That's one thing that we always have to remember. Okay, long live Tony. Tony was a good person, man, and what happened to him, we seeking justice every day. I'm working to find out more details about anything that anybody know about what happened to Tony. So we're gonna find out who did this, and we're gonna bring them to justice. But I do agree with you. Long live Tony, and that's forever and always. And actually, we're going to have Tony Mom's on. Hopefully, if she's willing, we're willing to have Tony's mom's on so she can kind of explain the story of Tony, and we can start our movement for justice for Tony Bass right here, right there in Birmingham with you all. Brother said, if I was Chris, I would have cut the mic off when Trump was disrespectful, and I agree. Justice for Breonna Taylor. I agree with that. All right. Good night, everybody. You guys have a good night. And listen, we'll see you bright and early tomorrow morning with the Carlos Chaverst Jr. Morning Show.
It's the Carlos Chaverst Show. You and me will always be tight. Chaverst giving up the day and night. And even when you start acting like a fool, We appreciate you cause it's all for the move. I know that I could always count on you to bring us all the new and latest news. And every day is a black man in this world. You know there's no one we'd rather hear it from. You and me will always be tight. Chaverst giving up the day and night. And even when you start acting like a fool, we appreciate you cause it's all for the move. I know that I could always count on you to bring us all the new and latest news. And every day is a black man in this world. You know there's no one we'd rather hear it from. It's the Carlo Chaverst Show.
Listen, Drake said no, don't go. I'm like, listen, I gotta go. Like, I gotta go. Like, I'm 6 glasses of wine in. I gotta go. So y'all be careful. Have a good night, everybody. That was the Carl Chaverst Jr. Show. We'll see you bright and early tomorrow morning. Take care, everybody. Have a good night.